Do you really want to hurt me? Do you really want to make me cry? Good evening, everyone. This is Stone Gasman live from New York City. And tonight we are going to be doing a 25th anniversary audio commentary for The Wedding Singer, starring Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore, directed by Frank Coraci, which was a fairly big hit in the February of 1998. Unfortunately, I was busy in Chicago going through Navy stuff, so unfortunately, I never got to see it on the big screen. Actually, didn't get to see it until it arrived on video about 6 months later. I did watch The Waterboy, and by that time, I was very familiar with the Adam Sandler "Oh as we as I'd like to try to go for here. But I was very familiar with who Sandler was, but not on SNL. That's not how I discovered Adam Sandler. But at any rate, we'll talk all about that. I want to welcome you all for coming out tonight. Um, let's go ahead and get started because I know you've all been waiting for me, and I apologize I was a few minutes late. But I am paused on the New Line Cinema logo. And one more time, you can get this movie at Amazon and HBO Max if you want to follow along with me. But just 1 second here. Okay. All right. How about on the count of three, and we'll go ahead and press play. Sounds good. All right. Three, two, one, and play. Like I said, put the volume all the way down. One of the great things about this movie is, of course, the music. I mean, there's so many wonderful songs available from that era. And we're going to go ahead and start with one that is particularly well beloved. You Spin Me Right Round Like a Record. And this was a 1984 hit by an English pop band called Dead or Alive. It was released as a single in November of 1984, and it reached number one in the UK in March of 85, which is when the year that The Wedding Singer takes place in. This is a period piece. And there is Adam Sandler singing to the title. This is a pretty awesome opening sequence. I really love this opening. I think Adam Sandler can sing, believe it or not. I look. Even though I didn't grow up watching him on Saturday Night Live, I did listen to his comedy albums, and in particular, his third album was basically all songs. So I was already familiar and was already a fan of Adam Sandler, believe it or not, as a singer. Believe it or not, even when he was being funny or not trying to be funny. Some of his songs he really goes all out, especially on that third album. And Alexis Arquette playing there right behind Adam Sandler. And we also see uh, the music composer Teddy Castellucci among Adam Sandler's band as well. His credit will be coming up in a minute, and I think you'll notice. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Music by Teddy Castellucci. Yeah. There you go. But yeah, one of the things about this movie that stands out is, of course, the music. Music supervisor Michael Dilbeck. Huge applause to him because he, I think, assembled a perfectly appropriate and just a well chosen set of soundtrack tunes to go with the soundtrack. As a matter of fact, believe it or not, there were two soundtracks released for The Wedding Singer in promotion. I mean, the soundtrack was that big, believe it or not. And I used to buy soundtracks, I mean, on a regular basis because that's how I got to know, certain musicians and bands were just through soundtracks. Yeah, I mean, Sandler can sing. I don't care what anybody says. The man can sing. And I like his version of the song. Dead or Alive's vocalist Pete Burns stated in his autobiography that he composed You Spin Me Around by using two existing songs as inspiration for creating something new. How did I write Spin Me? Quote, I listened to Luther Vandross's I Wanted Your Love. It's not the same chord structure, but then that's the way I make music. I hear something and I sing another tune over it. I didn't sit and study the Luther Vandross album. I heard the song and it locked. I'm trying to structure the music and I know what I want. It's like do this, do this, do this, and suddenly it hits. I don't know what to do. Luther Vandross's song, but I can still sing the same pattern over it. And there was another record by Little Nell, better known as Nell Campbell from Rocky Horror Picture Show, called her name was Magenta. Called "See You Around Like a Record." So I had those two, Vandross and Little Nell, and bingo, done deal. And that was Pete Burns from Freak Unique in 2007. But it's just one of the many great songs on the soundtrack. Now, here we have Steve Buscemi, uh, back in his Armageddon days. He was huge at this time because of Fargo and other films that he did and before and after, which are absolutely memorable. He always is a memorable character. I mean, even look, I hated Armageddon with a passion. I mean, it gave me a migraine in the theater. But he was the only one among the cast in Armageddon that I loved. It was Steve Buscemi. I mean, look, maybe it's because I'm the only one that got the Doctor Strangelove reference in the theater. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. At least I felt like I was the only one. I mean, I just couldn't stand that the way that movie was executed by Michael Bay. But look, I mean, Steve Buscemi has done a lot of stuff, and this is basically just a glorified cameo. But we do see him in other Adam Sandler movies later on down the road, like Big Daddy, and we see him pop up for every now and then just to do a favor for Adam Sandler. Hey, we need a character to fill this slot for this day. Hey, could you just come in and do something for like a half hour and but come on, how can you object to Steve Buscemi going on a you know a jealous rant of sorts? The emptiness kind of drips away, and here we discover how sweet Adam Sandler's character is, because he's trying to mend what was just done. And okay, let's get back into the happiness bit. Let's get back into the happiness and hope and everything else that comes with marriage and everything, and just try to give you this memorable wedding. And it works, believe it or not. Despite the fact that, I mean, Adam Sandler movies are known for, their crassness and their crudeness, and deservedly so. I mean, they are guilty of those things. But I think everybody except Siskel and Ebert recognized The Wedding Singer as a definite page turner in his career, because he went from being, I guess, canteen boy to something a little bit more memorable and lovable and uh, you know, audience friendly in that sense. Just instead of being just a weird guy on SNL and doing these weird comedy albums. I mean, it was actually because of his Sloppy Joe song. That was actually the first thing I ever heard in my life when it came to Adam Sandler. And I've seen the majority of his films since then. I mean, Wedding Singer is definitely up there in the top 5. Although, to be perfectly honest, there is one film from Happy Madison Productions that I like even better than this, which has the same leads in it. But we'll talk about that a bit later. This is Alexis Arquette doing, the late Alexis Arquette. I mean, I've seen, other films, like Threesome and everything. I mean, always always a delight with Alexis Arquette. And it was great seeing her again. And here's Drew Barrymore. Yep. And the bartender back there, I believe, is screenwriter Tim Herlihy. At least he's credited as a bartender. I hope that is Tim Herlihy. I should have double checked, but I don't know. I think there might be 2 or 3 bartenders in this movie. That's why I think it's hard to pick them out. I do know where another director pops up. Well, another. Let's put it this way: another production staff of Happy Madison Productions that will later direct some of Adam Sandler's other films. He pops up in a small role. I'd like to point out. I mean, anybody that's seen more than two or three Happy Madison or Adam Sandler productions, they all have the same faces. You get to know them almost like an extended family. If I mean, if you actually watch these films, you know the majority of them, the good ones and the bad ones and the ugly ones. And yes, there have been very much ugly ones. But one of the other charming things about this movie is, of course, I think the presence of Christine Taylor. This was before she got married to Ben Stiller and was primarily known as Marsha Brady in the Brady Bunch movies, which I did commentaries on both Brady Bunch movies last year. I encourage you all to take a listen to them. And even though, okay, I don't usually do this, but you know, I just wanted to throw this in just because I made this connection because I like Christina Taylor as Marsha Brady in those Brady Bunch movies, and I really like those movies. Now, both of those Brady Bunch movies came from Alan Ladd Jr., executive producer Alan Ladd Jr., and the Ladd Company. There's 26 films from the Ladd Company, and I did commentaries on 20 of them. And I wanted to post where you can pick up some Ladd Company merch real quick. I'm not being sponsored to do this, I assure you, but I still want to, you know, do this little promotion real quick just for fun. You can get like, you know, tees and t-shirts and, you know, stuff like this, whole bunch of merch, including masks. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of the Ladd Company and all the films that they put out. So, but like I said, I mean, and I know people asked me in the past too. That's why I was inclined to go ahead and throw that in here. But in the near future, I'm going to be finishing up all the Ladd Company movies. There's only six of them left. There's only six of them left. Not of the merch, but of the movies that I have to do commentaries for. They include Blade Runner, Blade Runner, Once Upon a Time in America, Twice Upon a Time, Gone Baby Gone, Love Child, and Braveheart. And it's questionable if I'm going to end the series with either Braveheart or Blade Runner. It's actually a very tough call right now. I'm sure people would be screaming at me, Blade Runner. Of course, it has to be Blade Runner. Well, there are certain things about Blade Runner that I don't think it would be appropriate to end. Well, not appropriate, but I I'm not as enthralled with Blade Runner as many others are, and that's just me. I got to do a bit more studying of Blade Runner, but I would prefer to end it on Braveheart. That's just me, though. But yeah, there's six more commentaries coming for the Ladd companies. So if you want to get merch, that's where to go, courtesy of my friend Pizzawell. Really good guy who does streaming and reviews and everything. Really good guy on YouTube. Check him out. Hopefully, it'll make you forget about Alexis Arquette's version of that Culture Club song, which incidentally, just one second here. Yeah, Do You Really Want to Hurt Me? It was a 1982 single by the Culture Club, an English new wave band, released as a single in September of '82 from the group's platinum selling debut album, Kissing to Be Cleaver. It was the band's first UK number one hit in the United States. The single was released in November of 1982 and also became a hit, reaching number two for 3 weeks. And Boy George, who was a member of the band, who actually also appeared in a 1985 movie called Perfect, believe it or not. He actually has a cameo in that movie. He loved Alexis Arquette's rendition of "Do You Really Want to Hurt Me?" I mean, apparently he loved it. He loved it. He laughed at it. Yeah, he was tickled by it apparently. So it got Boy George's approval for those who care. Hey, Ging, how you doing? Yes, I remember you. How you doing? How you doing? Glad you can show up. Yeah, we're watching The Wedding Singer here. Now, this actress who plays Rosie, she obviously has one of the more memorable parts in the movie, very recognizable, particularly for um, her rapper's delight number, which we will see much later on. But here we get to enjoy her meatballs first. She is adorable in this movie. She really is. At this point, when she made The Wedding Singer, uh, she was actually 85 years old at this point, and she ended up passing away in 2015 at the age of 101. So she made it. She made it to the century mark, ladies and gentlemen, and that is certainly an achievement. That face, that face, is everything. Yeah, it's everything. But yeah, so she was 101 when she passed away. She was born on November 16th, 1913, in Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania, the seventh and youngest child of Italian immigrant parents, Ellen and Oliver, from Non Valley, Trentino. Oliver was a car dealership owner. She studied dance and piano at the age of 5 and would later move to New York City, where she studied and worked with renowned dancers and choreographers Hanya Holm and Martha Graham. And she earned her BA and MA in theater from Cornell, where she became a member of Kappa Delta sorority, graduating in 1935. And she studied acting with Michael Shirtlet and Uta Hagen, and worked with mimes Marcel Marceau and Jacques Lecoq in New York City. When Dow moved to Los Angeles with her husband, she taught drama at Los Angeles City College, and she and her husband later taught at Los Angeles Pierce College. She founded the Albertini Mime Players and was its producer for 19 years. 19 years. Now we'll see Miss Dow again a little bit later. We'll see her again, but first we got to enjoy a little bit of Journey right here at Adam's would-be wedding, because as many people have seen this movie and are very familiar with the age-old um, romantic comedy cliche of being stood up at the altar for whatever reason. Okay, this is, look, as beloved as The Wedding Singer is, and I enjoy it immensely, it's still a rather standard romantic comedy script. And what makes it sparkle is primarily the chemistry between Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. They're not in every scene in the movie together. However, when they are together, like I said, there is this electricity, there is this chemistry. I mean, Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan had it. You know, Many other screen couples have had it in the past. I mean, and when you have that magic chemistry, you could basically turn any standard romantic comedy script into something even more special. And that's definitely what Adam Sandler and particularly Drew Barrymore both do in this movie. I mean, they are wonderful, and they are wonderful together. That being said, and I will just go ahead and throw this out here. But 51st Dates is actually my favorite of Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. And it's actually my favorite Happy Madison film, period. And I actually do prefer it over The Wedding Singer. And as much as I do like The Wedding Singer, I do prefer this. I've seen this probably 50 times now. I'm serious. I've seen this for about 50 times, and I've seen The Wedding Singer maybe 6 times. I like The Wedding Singer. I just look, maybe it's because of the slight detachment to the time period, because look, I mean, I think a lot of people really fell in love with this movie largely because of the 80s aesthetic. And I mean, that's the thing. That is one of the I think one of the things that makes this a little bit different than the typical romantic comedy of the time. And this is a treat for Freddy Krueger fans right there. Like, I haven't seen this movie in a while, and when the Freddy Krueger joke came up, and you saw that picture that the kid made, like, I laughed. Oh, that was so funny. That was good. Mhm. And there are some other familiar faces right there. Alan Covert on the right, drinking the coffee. He's in many Adam Sandler epics. I particularly like him in what is it, Little Nicky, which is not one of Sandler's well remembered films like the Wedding Singer or The Water Boy or you know. We'll talk about Sandler a little bit later, though. Let's first talk about Angela Featherstone, Canadian actress who plays the girl that leaves Adam Sandler at the altar, Linda. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, even though we see very little of Angela Featherstone, she still is a very important character. I mean, this script would not work without this character, and despite the fact we see so little of her, what we do see of her is just enough. It's just enough. And Featherstone is wonderful in this role. She's oh my god, sexy. I mean, the way she rocks I'm not 100% certain if it's a wig. Okay, I can't say for sure. Maybe other people it would be obvious. I'm not really sure, but I think she looks like dynamite in this movie. Mm. With a year of emancipating herself from foster care at age 17, Angela Featherstone became Canada's top model when her September Flare magazine cover broke all previous records for sales. She quickly expanded upon her success and left for New York, where she signed with the illustrious Click Models and later would be one of the first models signed next. She would travel the world in the 80s as a top fashion model. Well cast, very well cast. I must say, definitely well cast. I wouldn't be surprised if Sandler and many of his friends were well familiar with who she was. But she's probably not a bitch in real life. She's probably very, very lovely. That always made me laugh. That's that kid. It's like, yeah, I mean, even when we don't hear him, actually cursing Linda, I mean, we always hear about it through his music or we hear about it through other characters. I mean, we understand that Robbie, because of what she did, hates her and is, you know, going to be hung up on her for as long as it takes until he realizes, oh, there might be somebody better out there for me. Now, I wanted to talk about this song that Drew Barrymore is singing, which is another classic of the period. It's by a German band called Nina. It's called 99 Luftballons. Yeah, I know. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. I know balloons have been in the news recently. I'm not going to go there. But anyway, the English language version of 99 Luftballons, titled 99 Red Balloons, was released on the album 99 Luftballons in 1984 after widespread success of the original in Europe and Japan. The English version is not a direct translation of the German original and contains lyrics but with the same meaning. In the US, the English language version did not chart, while the German language recording became Nina's only US hit. American and Australian audiences preferred the original German version, which became a very successful non English language song, topping charts in both countries, reaching number one on the Cashbox chart, Kent Music Report, and number two on the Billboard Hot 100, behind Jump by Van Halen. It was certified gold by the RIAA. The later released English translation, 99 Red Balloons, topped the charts in the UK, book, and Canada. Canada and Ireland, excuse me. VH1 Classic, an American cable television station, ran a charity event for Hurricane Katrina relief in 2006. Viewers who made donations were allowed to choose which music videos the station would play. One viewer donated $35,000 for the right to program an entire hour and requested continuous play of 99 Luftballons and 99 Red Balloons videos. The station that broadcast the videos is requested from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern on March 26th of 2006. And the inspiration for that song I thought was really interesting, just real quick. While at a June 1982 concert by the Rolling Stones in West Berlin, Nina's guitarist Carlo Kargas noticed that balloons were being released. As he watched them move toward the horizon, he noticed them shifting and changing shapes, while they looked like strange spacecraft referred to in the German lyrics as a UFO. He thought about what might happen if they floated over the Berlin Wall to the Soviet sector. Also cited by the band was a newspaper article from the Las Vegas Review Journal about 5 local high school students in 1973 who played a prank to simulate a UFO by launching 99. One was lost from the original 100 alumni's Mylar balloons attached with ribbons to a traffic flare. The red flame from the flare reflected by the balloons gave the appearance of a large, pulsating red object floating over Red Rock Canyon outside the Las Vegas Valley in Nevada. So, yeah, evidently that song inspired a UFO. Like I said, this soundtrack is amazing. It's got its fair share of interesting choices, interesting bands, interesting backstories. Definitely. Time to get back to work, man. Time to get back to work, get back on the stage and do some more singing. Now, I wanted to talk about Alexis Arquette. There she is right there. Yeah, the late Alexis Arquette. She passed away in 2016 at the age of 47, very, very sadly. In 1982, at the age of 12, Arquette's first acting gig was as this quote, little kid who's on a ride with all these women and whatnot in the music video, She's a Beauty by the Tubes. In 1986, Arquette made her big screen debut in an uncredited role as Alexis, the androgynous friend and bandmate of sexually ambivalent teenager Max Whiteman in Down and Out in Beverly Hills. I've seen Down and Out in Beverly Hills many, many times over the years. It's a pretty good comedy. It's based on a 1932 movie called Bodu's Saved from Drowning, which I think is even better. But yeah, it sort of became like a typical nouveau rich 80s satire. But yeah, um, yeah, I remember that bit. I remember that Alexis bit in Down and Out in Beverly Hills near the end at the party, and it's great. Yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful introduction. Arquette, in the earlier years of her career, primarily performed as a female impersonator, frequently under the name Eva Destruction. Later in her career, Arquette made public that she had begun the process of leading to sex reassignment surgery. To this end, Arquette had publicly declared that she considered her gender to be female. At 19, Arquette played trans sex worker Georgette in the screen adaptation of Last Exit to Brooklyn. The majority of Arquette's film work was in low-budget or independent films. In total, Arquette starred in more than 40 movies, including I Think I Do, Children of the Corn 5, and Sometimes They Come Back Again. Arquette also starred as a crack addict opposite Tim Roth in Jumpin' at the Boneyard as a teenage boy seeking revenge for a horrible childhood in the New Zealand shot horror fantasy Jack Be Nimble, and as a murderous drag queen in the low-budget comedy Killer Drag Queens on Dope. Arquette had also supporting roles in Pulp Fiction, Threesome, which is what I know her from primarily, and Bride of Chucky. And she played a Boy George fanatic, George Stilzer, in the Adam Sandler Drew Barrymore film The Wedding Singer, singing Do You Really Want to Hurt Me over and over again. Her role as Georgina, a Boy George impersonator in another Sandler Barrymore film, Blended, was a reference to that role. In 2001, Arquette returned to New Zealand to play Roman Emperor Caligula in two episodes of Xena Warrior Princess. Yeah. That same year, Arquette guest starred in the Friends episode, The One with Chandler's Dad, in which he directly interacted with her sister in law, played by Courtney Cox. Also in the same year, she cameoed in Son of the Beach. In September of 2005, VH1 announced Arquette was one of the celebrity house guests on the sixth season of The Surreal Life. On January 31st, 2007, Arquette was featured celebrity client and guest judge on the premiere episode of Bravo's reality show Top Design. Arquette also made a cameo appearance in the music video for Robbie Williams' song She's Madonna. Yep. And let's see, her last movie was actually Blended. Now, I must admit, I never saw Blended. It got atrocious reviews from the critics, and even they said that look, the chemistry just wasn't there anymore. And when I heard that, I was like, oh no, because as I said before, I adore 51st Dates. Unlike The Wedding Singer, this is actually in my top 11 romantic comedies of all time. And part of it's just due to the fact that it actually inspired real life situations which helped people with short term memory loss. That's not a joke. 51st Dates is Drew Barrymore plays a woman who gets into an accident and she can only uh, relive the same 24 hours over and over again. To her, nothing changes and nothing progresses. Now, if it sounds a little bit like Groundhog Day, it is. But to be fair to Happy Madison and Drew Barrymore and the screenwriter George Wing, uh, it really plays nothing like Groundhog Day. I mean, the themes are completely different. The comedy is completely different. The love story is completely different. Yeah, there is an element where essentially a character. Well, actually, Groundhog Day, he was stuck in a time warp. That wasn't due to the fact that he was actually suffering from short term memory loss. So to be fair, there also, but they're completely different films. Let's put it this way. And comparisons are fine. I just think believe me, there's not much that joins the two of them except for that one little plot thread. But aside from that, 51st Dates, I just think it's better executed as a romantic comedy. I think it's a more original romantic comedy. It has, I think, a quintessential what if scenario for the genre, which is look, this guy who is a playboy, he sleeps with tourists all the time on Hawaii, played by Adam Sandler, and he falls in love with a local, which he never does, but it's played by Drew Barrymore. She has short-term memory loss. I mean, every day is Sunday to her, uh, and her brother and father, while they love her and they mean well, they're kind of doing something that could be more potentially damaging than it could be in terms of helping her, but they don't know what else to do. They have like 2 billion copies of the same newspaper, so that whenever she wakes up, she gets this paper, picks this pineapple. You get what I'm saying. But and he falls in love with this woman, and so he has to spend every single day making her fall in love with him. Now, if that's not a quintessential romantic comedy premise, I don't know what is. And that's why I just think this one beats The Wedding Singer just in terms of originality. And just in terms of originality, I do think it's a little bit better. The Wedding Singer, I just think, suffers from having a standard romantic comedy script, which, we see all the beats. I mean, if you've seen plenty of romantic comedy movies, all the beats of The Wedding Singer is very, very familiar. Okay, now the gentleman there on the left, next to Matthew Glave in the white coat, Matthew Glave plays Drew Barrymore's fiance in this movie. We'll talk a little bit about him later. But the guy that he was talking to, which is his friend, that is a man by the name of Stephen Brill. And if Stephen Brill, if that name is in any way familiar, he is also part of the Adam Sandler crowd. And he's directed movies like Little Nicky and Mr. Deeds and Sandy Wexler. But he also wrote the Mighty Ducks movies. That guy over there on the left in the tie, he wrote all of the Mighty Ducks movies. He wrote the first and the second and the third film, which I am not a fan of the Mighty Ducks franchise, but look, I mean, there's so little hockey movies in the world. I'm so happy that they exist. And I'm so happy that they do have the fans that franchise suitably should have. So, good on him. Good on him. He's obviously doing something right. I did see a movie that he wrote and directed that I must say struggled, even though I kind of like the premise for it. It was called Walk of Shame. He wrote and directed this movie in 2014. He's off screen now. He just left. But Stephen Brill, he directed Little Nicky, which I actually liked. And then he did Mr. Deeds, which I did not like. There he is right there. That's Stephen Brill. And then he directed Mr. Deeds, which I hated because that was a remake of a legendary Frank Capra classic. And I'm sorry, you don't mess with Frank Capra. Okay. It Happened One Night is on my top 11 romantic comedy list. I mean, you just don't mess with the guy. And unfortunately, with Mr. Deeds, I took it a little personally than I think most other people. I will admit that. But he also was, he did a segment for movie 43. But Walk of Shame, I really wanted to like Walk of Shame. He did write and direct it. And Elizabeth Banks plays like this journalist, this reporter, this newscaster for this local TV affiliate, and she goes out and has an embarrassing night, and then she has to walk home. In the morning, she goes through a lot of horrible experiences, and she basically has to go home on a quote unquote walk of shame. Look, I'm sure Stephen Brill did not mean to be, thrown at him accusations of being misogynist or whatever. Look, I'm not going to go there, but at the same time, when I saw it, I was like, okay, I don't find this offensive. I just think it's weird and not very funny. And I like Elizabeth Banks, and I liked her in the movie. I thought that she was a real trooper. But I think either they should have gotten another director or they should have rewritten Brill's script. That's just me, though. But yeah, Walk of Shame, that was a disappointment. I didn't find it offensive. I just found it an extreme disappointment from the guy that directed Little Nicky. But then again, I'm kind of joking in my overpraise of him. Oh, the bar mitzvah scene. Yeah. Well, as we all know, Adam Sandler is Jewish. And, his career, kind of was in a stall for a while after he won Razzie Awards galore for Jack and Jill. He made a massive comeback 8 years later, which I have a copy of it. I wasn't able to dig it out, but I do have a copy of Uncut Gems, which is this brilliant, genius, edge of your seat movie, executive produced by Martin Scorsese, of all people. And Adam Sandler plays this Diamond District jeweler who, he owes money to his loan shark brother and everything. And there's lots of scenes with them and the Jewish family and everything. And it was a complete resurgence for Adam Sandler's career. I think he deserved an Academy Award nomination. The Academy didn't give it to him, probably because they just, as good as he was, that was a very hard character to like. And, Sandler did not hold back in making him very unlikable. He did not hold back at all, and I applaud him for that. But he was in an even better movie for Netflix just this past year called Hustle. And I'm telling you right now, Hustle is the best Happy Madison production ever. It is awesome. Adam Sandler is awesome in it. He plays somebody that you genuinely care about and you genuinely root for. I mean, if anything, I think he deserved an Academy Award nomination for for Hustle even more so than Uncut Gems. And I loved Uncut Gems. Oh, Drew Barrymore. The hair, I love the short hair. She has that with what she's wearing, the waitress outfit, she has that French maidish quality here, I think. Just adorable. Just absolutely adorable. Now, this kid, we need to talk about this kid, okay? uh uh okay. Let's see, full cast and crew. I'm trying to remember his name. I had it on the tip of my tongue, and I got to look again. But Michael Schumann. That's this guy's name. Is Michael Schumann, who is dancing with Drew Barrymore right now. He is now today a musical artist, American musician and songwriter, best known for playing bass with rock band Queens of the Stone Age. He also sings and plays the guitar and various other instruments in Mini Mansions and formerly confronted Wires on Fire and Jubilee. And he is also currently in a relationship with English actress Lily Jones. Yeah, the same Lily Jones from movies like Pride and Prejudice with zombies, which I actually thoroughly enjoyed, Baby Driver, Darkest Hour, the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society, the musical Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, which I also actually really liked, Yesterday, Rebecca, and The Dig. Yeah. Yeah. So I never would have seen that connection coming, but that is very, very true. Michael Schumann is now in a love relationship with Lily James. Good for him. Good for him. And a musician himself. I mean, I wonder if he took it. I wonder if Adam Sandler gave him enough pointers here in this movie that he just, went down that road. That would be that would be a hell of a success story right there. So yeah, that was Michael Schumann. The luckiest kid in 1990s movies, huh? I mean, there were critics who despised Adam Sandler when The Wedding Singer came out. I mean, there was still a lot of hate early on for Adam Sandler in the critical community. Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel could not stand him. Leonard Maltin couldn't stand him up until The Wedding Singer came out. And look, let's now take a deep dive into Adam Sandler's filmography, because look, I'm gonna have a confession here. In 1995, with his comedy albums going selling very well, and of course he was already known for being on Saturday Night Live at that point. When I saw Billy Madison, I didn't like it. I didn't find it that funny. I saw it years later, many, many years later, for a second viewing, and I laughed a few times. It wasn't exactly a runaway comedy hit. I think the movie has a lot of problems, and I do think it's a little too weird for its own good. But I got to admit that it was better than I remembered it being. And what can I say? I am not in love with those early Adam Sandler films. I mean, I saw Big Daddy, I saw Little Nicky, I saw The Water Boy, I saw Happy Gilmore. I even saw Bulletproof, which nobody else remembers, where it's actually like a 48 hours action type comedy where he's with Damon Wayans. And what I remember from seeing that in the theater was Adam Sandler crooning Whitney Houston's uh, one of Whitney Houston's big hits from The Bodyguard. I will always love you. Yeah. He was crooning that in the shower, and Damon Wayans yelled at him, told him to shut up, and he just, he pulled back the shower curtain and said to Damon Wayans, "You'll always be my bodyguard, you know that." Look, I enjoyed Adam Sandler in the '90s, despite the fact I was not a fan of Billy Madison. Okay, so let that be for the record. It wasn't until after 2000, 2001, 2002, when I started to get a little tired of the guy. Now, there's a lot of fans of Punch Drunk Love. I am not among them. And this is coming from somebody who loved Magnolia to the point that it was my number one movie of 1999, directed and written by Paul Thomas Anderson. I even have the screenplay for it, a copy of the screenplay. But when I finally saw Punch Drunk Love when that came out, I was I was kind of freaked out by it, and not in a good way. There was something about it that I found rather nasty and unpleasant. And look, maybe it's another one I have to rewatch and everything because that movie has gotten consistent praise over the years. I mean, it hasn't really stalled in any way. But being such a Paul Thomas Anderson film, I got to check out Punch Drunk Love again. At the time, I didn't like it though. And of course, this was also at the time that he made that animated movie, Eight Crazy Nights, and he started to become a corporate whore. Look, let's be honest here. I mean, all the product placement that is within these movies. This is something you have to deal with. Sometimes it's distracting, other times it's not. 51st Dates being the extreme exception in that you know what the promotions were, for 51st Dates and why the, budget was about $75 million, even though they probably could have made it for, like, 20 million. Uh, the production sponsors were Spam and Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, and I have to admit, even in the context of the story, that's funny. Even the product placement in 51st Dates is funny. Okay. I can't, even that I can't deny. Wedding Singer is relatively free of that. I mean, but this is, of course, before Adam Sandler started taking these big checks from these chains and these recognizable names. Jack and Jill was all about Dunkin' Donuts and which has, of course, become a massive meme since then. The whole Dunkachino number, where Al Pacino comes out and does this Dunkachino commercial, which at the time was considered so bad that even Al Pacino wanted to burn the footage. Allegedly, there's a clip which is probably just all a joke, but yeah, there's actually footage of Al Pacino watching it with Adam Sandler, and Adam Sandler's like, "Yeah, I think it's good. I mean, we might have to make a few trims here and there at the beginning and the end, but I think it might be good." And Al Pacino's like, "Burn this. No one should ever fucking see this ever." It's not a good time for Adam Sandler, I think, at the time. But like I said, he's definitely redeemed himself, I think, in the past few years. I mean, I haven't heard his his new stand up work is actually really good too, even though I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet. The weird thing is that watching Wedding Singer now, with all my love for 51st Dates, because as I said, I brought that up before, I much prefer 51st Dates. Can I watch these as a double feature? Yeah, I probably could. I probably could. But I mean, they're actually very different as romantic comedies, though. I mean, one is a bit more. I mean, this is more of a period piece, which depends upon the soundtrack, I think, in some ways. But 51st Dates, of course, I'm still blown away by the originality of that. And like I said, it gives Drew Barrymore a real character to work with and exercise with. Yeah, it's kind of a shame that I mean, here again, I didn't see Blended, which is the third film that both Drew and Adam did. I still haven't seen it, but like, I mean, the running time is 2 hours long. I heard it's yet another one of those productions that served more like as a vacation shoot for Adam Sandler and his colleagues and everything. Whatever. I mean, it's one of those things that, once you hear about those details, it kind of, you know, gives the movie a bad vibe, which that bad vibe was not present when they made Wedding Singer or 51st Dates. It just wasn't present at all. Hmm. Hope you're all enjoying the movie so far. Think we are do a timestamp real quick. We are 49 minutes in, 49 minutes into the Wedding Singer 25th anniversary audio commentary. Ging Azara, lovely to see you again. Anybody else that's in the chat or watching along, let me know what you think of the Wedding Singer, how many times you've seen it, all that good stuff. And this is a nice little, typical romantic comedy montage where although here again, I mean, it's just there's only like residue, I would say, of the worst aspects of those Billy Madison productions that are present in The Wedding Singer. Here, like 51st States, it's the crassness is minimized, the crudeness is minimized. The fart jokes are pretty much non-existent. I mean, the thing is, like, one of the last Adam Sandler movies I saw in the theaters was Click. And if y'all remember that, he goes to like Bed Bath and Beyond, where Christopher Walken gives him like a life remote control, where you can pause your family at will, and you can do whatever you want. And then he realizes that it's a wonderful life. And but he also spends like a good 10 minutes farting in front of David Hasselhoff's face, which I can only take so much of, even in a silly comedy movie like that. And if I'm not mistaken, Click was also directed by Frank Coraci, who directed The Wedding Singer. Let's talk about the director. Yeah, a director and screenwriter best known for his work with actor Adam Sandler. He has directed three successful films with Adam Sandler: The Wedding Singer, The Waterboy, and Click. And I didn't mind The Waterboy. I actually liked the cast in that movie, and there's enough laughs in it. I mean, Adam Sandler's character is a little grating. Of course, I can see people say the same thing about Little Nicky and his character there. But he worked as an actor in Sandler's video clip The Lonesome Kicker, playing the character that gives the song its name. And that's actually one of my favorite Adam Sandler songs. So there you go. He also directed the movie Around the World in 80 Days, starring Jackie Chan, which turned out to be a box office flop, grossing only 24 million in the United States, made on a budget of $110 million. He also directed Zookeeper, a romantic comedy starring Kevin James and Rosario Dawson that was released in 2011. Zookeeper was another Happy Madison production. And also, Here Comes the Boom, another Kevin James movie. I don't watch any of those Kevin James movies. I'm sorry, he's just not my biggest fan. I'm not the biggest fan of of that guy. The last movie he directed was a movie with Steve Coogan and Nev Campbell called Hot Air in 2019. I wanted to talk about this one real quick. But the plot follows a conservative talk radio host played by Steve Coogan, whose life and worldview is upended by the arrival of his biracial 16-year-old niece. The film was theatrically released in the United States on October 23rd, 2019 by Freestyle Releasing and Lionsgate. But the reviews, sadly, were terrible. Had a 17% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So, yeah, not Frank Coraci's finest actor, to be honest, finest hour, to be honest. But he did do Blended, and he also did Click and Around the World in 80 Days. But I think we'll always know Frank Coraci as the guy behind Wedding Singer and Waterboy. Let's put it that way. I mean, Click was okay. Click was one of the better ones, particularly from that production company. It is one of the better ones, but it still really strains, especially when you watch It's a Wonderful Life every year. We don't need an Adam Sandler version of that. Just like we didn't need an Adam Sandler version of Mr. Deeds, for God's sake. Mr. Deeds Goes to Town from 1936 is, like I said, one of the masterpieces. This is an adorable scene. Yeah. Christina Taylor, kind of sees it right away, even though she tries to seduce him later and tries to get him into bed, and then Linda nearly comes back for him and everything. It's like, yeah, every woman in this movie falls in love with Adam Sandler. Everybody, the irony being that he's stood up at the altar. That's great. I love the colors on the print as well. And we should talk about Michael Glaive that plays Drew Barrymore's Wall Street fiance in this movie. I mean, who hasn't? He's, he just has that frat boy mentality where he's just going to go out and drinking and go to the strip club and do all that and just leave Drew Barrymore at home to cook and clean and everything. I mean, you could, yeah, it's. I mean, of course, everybody sees it coming, but Drew Barrymore's character. But she also slowly but surely realizes that there's a better guy out there. I am a massive Drew Barrymore fan. I mean, here again, even more than Adam Sandler. It's amazing to me. I mean, when people think of Drew Barrymore, they think of Gertie from E.T. I get it. Okay. I actually think of Altered States more because that was actually her first film, believe it or not. But, and, it's interesting because let me tell you something about Drew Barrymore. I go to the Alamo Draft House quite frequently. And I remember several months ago, they had a Drew Barrymore, like, I guess you could say, like a film festival of sorts, where on a Sunday, they would choose 4 Drew Barrymore movies at random. You don't know what the films are before you go in the theater. And yeah, we're talking 4 movies, which is about, what, 6 to 8 hours of being in the theater and watching these Drew Barrymore movies. And I almost got a ticket for it. I mean, I'm that much of a Drew Barrymore fan that I almost got a ticket for it. But this was also during the days, I think this was also shortly after COVID started. And I didn't want to be in a theater that was full of people, despite, uh, you know, I just, was that? I think no, that was after COVID. That was actually like a year or so after COVID. Man, it's been a long time. But I mean, no, that was maybe about a year ago. It was about a year ago, back when Alamo was starting up again after being shut down for 8, 9 months. And when they came back, they decided to do a Drew Barrymore Film Festival. So I almost bought a ticket for it, but I realized, you know what? I don't want to be stuck with a weaker Drew Barrymore movie that I don't particularly care for. And I had the feeling that they were going to show Never Been Kissed, just because that seems to be one of Drew's most popular movies. I liked it. I would not choose it among 4 of her best, films, and that's what I'm saying is that when I posed the question on Twitter, I actually revealed what 4 films I would choose from her filmography. I would choose a 1984 film called Irreconcilable Differences, where she actually plays a 10-year-old girl who sues her parents for divorce. This is a real movie played by Ryan O'Neal and Shelley Long, and yeah, she plays basically the daughter of a Hollywood couple who's bickering and starts hating each other, and of course it's hurting her, and so she sues them for divorce. It's great. Drew Barrymore is great in it, and it it's barely known. Its existence is barely known, which is really sad. But I also would, of course, would choose Ever After, which is kind of the movie that made me a certified Drew Barrymore fan. It was Wedding Singer to an extent, but it was also Ever After. It kind of eclipsed it. I mean, that came out the same year as The Wedding Singer. Whenever I go to a bar or club, I always get Long Island iced tea, but not because of this movie. So I can trust her. Yeah. And you can see what Sandler is doing when he just turns his personality on a dime, so he can just talk to him and be like, "Oh yeah, oh I see. This is how you intend to treat Drew Barrymore after you get married, right? Yeah." Mhm. And I mean, like I said, even though this movie did not win Roger Ebert over, it did win Leonard Maltin over. He gave the movie 3 stars out of 4 in his book, and he had talked crap about Sandler before. He really did take a dump on the guy, and that's what I'm saying. That's when I knew that The Wedding Singer had um, taking hold of the romantic comedy crowd as opposed to just the Sandler crowd. This movie, I mean, this was a hit for the studio. I mean, it was had only an $18 million budget, very modest. Like I said, no product placement in sight. And it made 123.3 million, which is astonishing for a romantic comedy movie, particularly one that comes out in February. But like I said, I think that releasing it the day before Valentine's Day was the right call, and this was a massive hit. Valentine's Day weekend in 1998. And it's easy to see why. 51st Dates, of course, benefited from a Valentine's Day release as well in 2004, 6 years after The Wedding Singer. But another movie I would choose for that Drew Barry quartet would actually be the only movie that she directed, which is a 2009 film called Whip It, which is about a female roller derby group. I adored Whip It. I thought it was one of the best films of 2009. And like I said, she not only directed it, but she also has a pretty prominent role in it as well. Um, Yeah, Whip It. It stars Elliot Page, written by Shauna Cross, based on her 2007 novel Roller Derby Girl. And it stars Elliot Page as a teenager from the fictional town of Bodine, Texas, who joins a roller derby team. And it also has Marcia Gay Harden, Daniel Stern, Jimmy Fallon, Kristen Wiig, Eve, and Juliette Lewis. And oh man, I absolutely loved Whip It. And I've wanted Drew Barrymore to actually direct a movie since then, and she hasn't. I mean, I know that she had her television show Santa Clarita Diet, which I sadly, never got around to watching. And then she now has her talk show, and that's wonderful. More power to her. She's awesome. I just wish she had directed another movie, and and who knows if we'll see her actually try to direct another movie later on. Even if it's a sequel to Whip It, I would be actually okay with that, or another roller derby movie. I mean, anything. Drew Barrymore, please direct another movie sometime in your life. I would love that. Yeah, Christine Taylor is basically telling him, "Yeah, oh yeah, you come in, if you come in, you're gonna get laid." Okay, I'm just letting you know that. But Sandler politely declines. He politely declines, and she knows why. She's cool with that. She totally gets it. I can't believe I never noticed it before. Oh, she sensed it. Yeah. You've got a thing for Julia. Yep. She's marrying that jerk off. Yeah. Yeah, we get it, man. We get it. And he assumes it's all because of money and security. No, no. Yeah, but he'll eventually realize that those aren't the reasons either. Like I said, it's a cute but very very simple romantic comedy hook. We've seen this in many many other films. Hey Eric, great to see you, sir. I think Sandler has a loyal audience he'll keep making movies for. Yeah, but when given a great script, he's capable of incredible work. Absolutely, 100% agree. He's probably never going to win an Oscar. He's probably never going to win an Oscar and win that portion of the critics community. But look, hey, he won awards for Uncut Gems, and if anything, he should have won more awards for Hustle, and that unfortunately did not happen. Like I said, if no matter what Sandler film you liked in the past, watch Hustle. Hustle is so good. Christine Taylor rocking that headband right there. I mean, she looks wonderful in this movie. She does look like an '80s girl through and through. Oddly enough, I mean, despite this movie having a wonderful soundtrack, it's almost weird we never hear like Prince in the movie, or I don't know. I guess Sandler is just not a fan of Prince. Who knows? But I was gonna talk about the soundtrack here real quick because it actually inspired a musical which lasted for a number of years on stage. Yeah, two soundtrack albums for the film called The Wedding Singer and The Wedding Singer Volume 2 were released in 1998. While the film had the actors performing many of the songs, the soundtrack albums, for the most part, contain the original versions of the songs instead, as well as the songs that were in the background during the film and original songs and dialogue from it. Only for Rapper's Delight was its rendition by Ellen Dow used in combination with the original recording. So, yeah, so on the first album, we had Video Killed the Radio Star performed by the Presidents of the United States of America. That's, yeah, that plays over the end credits pretty much. And then you have like the police, every little thing she does is magic. How Soon Is Now by the Smiths, Psychedelic Furs, the Thompson Twins, Elvis Costello, Billy Idol, who of course we'll see later on the plane to Las Vegas. China Girl, originally performed by Iggy Pop, but now performed by David Bowie. Um, Rapper's Delight with the Sugar Hill Gang and Ellen Dow. And the second album had Kajugugu, Too Shy, The Cars, Spandau Ballet, A Flock of Seagulls, Space Age Love Song, B-52's Private Idaho, Flying Lizards, Just Can't Get Enough by Depeche Mode, Love Stinks. Oh, this was something I wanted to cover real quick because earlier in in the movie, he sings "Love Stinks" at the wedding that this was right after he got stood up at the altar and he's heartbroken and he can't work and he's just he's barely singing at the we saw it before. Well, anyway, "Love Stinks" is a song written by Peter Wolf and Seth Justman that was the title track of the Jay Giles Band 1980 album "Love Stinks." Was released as a single and peaked in the US at number 38, spending 3 weeks in the top 40. In Canada, the song reached number 14 as it did on WLSM radio in Chicago. Uh, and supposedly it was inspired. Oh, yeah. The lyrics describe a love triangle in which two participants experience unrequited love before segueing into a description of love gone sour in general. The lyrics may have been inspired by Jay Giles Band lead singer Peter Wolf's marriage to actress Faye Dunaway. This is post network Faye Dunaway. Well, yeah. This was right before she did Mommy Dearest, let's put it that way. Ended in a 1979 divorce. Author Maury Dean describes the opening of the song as ponderous power metal. Dean describes the band's playing in the refrain as generating, quote, wild waves of flame. The guitars as fire breathing and Wolf's slow vocals in the yeah, yeah portion of the chorus as snarling with heavy metal glee. Justman provides extensive keyboards, which Associated Press critic James Simon feels gives the song a little extra zing. Vig alone describes the riff as Lou Reed's Vicious, as performed by his rock and roll animal band on Lou Reed Live at half speed, also noting that it is a hard rock version of the riff from Louie Louie. Rolling Stone critic Rob Sheffield notes that the riff was later used by Nirvana in the song Smells Like Team Spirit. They'll rip your heart out of your ass. 51st Dates is a very similar character. The Chinese guy, or no, the elderly Hawaiian guy in 51st Dates who just pops up every now and then, like he's in the Mookie La Cafe and everything, and he would just drop a curse word or whatever every now and then. So funny. I'm surprised they're not the same character. And I think that character that we just saw in the bar, it may not be the same actor, but he definitely looks like a guy that would be in like the 1985 movie The Sure Thing, where he would go up to like John Cusack in a bus station or whatever, asking if he has a dollar. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's the same guy without looking up. Uh, I'm willing to stake that my life on that, even though I'm not going to look it up right now. That guy right there at the end of the bar. Yeah. It's a new road. It's miserable. And of course, I mean, he arrived earlier with that jacket and the silver glove, very Michael Jackson, huge part of the 1980s and everything. That's what I'm saying. If you're going to do Michael Jackson, you might as well do Prince, right? I mean, come on. And let's see. Hall & Oates, You Make My Dreams, Madonna's Holiday, and Grow Old With You was actually written by Adam Sandler and Tim Hurley and performed by Adam Sandler at the end. Yeah. Everything is going to be all right. Bless bartenders, they have to deal with stuff like this. Is that I don't mind going to a bar except when they start putting your hands all over you and be like acting like your best friend. Like, no, No. Oh, come on, man. I'm here to have a drink, not be molested. I know that's not their intention, but come on. It's like, you don't need to put your arms around me. And among the songs and renditions that appear in the movie but were not included in either of the soundtrack albums, there were 99 Luftballoons by Nina. We talked about them earlier. Der Kommissar, performed by After the Fire. Meredith Wilson, Don't Stop Believing by Journey, one of my great favorites. Boys Don't Cry by The Cure. All Night Long, All Night by Lionel Richie. That's All, written by Alan Brandt and Bob Haynes. Ladies' Night, originally performed by Kool and the Gang. And it should be noted that John Lovitz also opens up. I think he was also later in Blended as the same character, but he was also in Little Nicky. He actually opened up Little Nicky with Ladies' Night, singing that in a tree as he was looking at a woman, in a window, undressing and everything. But Do You Believe in Love by Huey Lewis and the News, the Miami Vice theme, Hungry Heart by Bruce Springsteen, the Goofball Brothers Show, written and performed by Sorcerer, and Wake Me Up Before You Go Go, performed by Wham. And Wedding Singer soundtrack got certified platinum twice in the United States and Australia, selling over 2 million units in the United States alone. And it also was gold in the United Kingdom and platinum in Canada. Uh-huh. And Volume 2 only did well in the United States and Canada, but the first one did extremely well in Australia, Canada, United Kingdom, and United States. Now, there was, in fact, a musical adaptation of The Wedding Singer, which came out in 2006. Music by Matthew Schuyler, lyrics by Chad Begulin, and a book by Begulin and Tim Herlihy, which is the screenwriter of The Wedding Singer. Based on the 1998 film The Same Name, musical revolves around Robbie, who sings at weddings, his failed relationship with his former fiancee, and his romance with a new love, Julia. The musical premiered on Broadway in 2006, had several U.S. tours starting in 2007. It was nominated for the 2006 Tony Award for Best Musical. It was actually nominated. It subsequently has had many international productions. And I'm just looking through some of the songs here real quick. A lot of the songs are actually very different. Some of the songs in the musical include It's Your Wedding Day, Someday, Awesome, A Note from Linda, Pop, Somebody Kill Me, Casualty of Love, Today You're a Man, Come Out of the Dumpster, George's Player, Not That Kind of Thing, Saturday Night in the City, Let Me Come Home, Not That Kind of Thing, If I Told You, Move That Thing, Grow Old with You. Yeah, the only song they pretty much take over is "Grow Old with You" from the movie. That's weird. Wow. Considering all that music, I would have thought they would have transferred at least uh you make me wanna hurt me. So at the very least I could have taken that over. The a UK tour of the musical opened up the Manchester Palace Theatre in February 2008, starring Jonathan Wilkes as Robbie and Natalie Casey as Julia. Toured through the UK through July of 2008. And same production opened up for a limited run at the Troubadour Wembley Park Theatre from the 30th of January to the 1st of March 2020. This production features Kevin Clifton as Robbie, Sandra Dickinson as Grandma Rosie, Rhiannon Chesterman as Julia, Andrew McCarthy as George, Ashley Emerson as Sandy, and so on and so forth. The Japanese version ran in Tokyo at the Nisei Theater in 2008. Philippine production ran at the Morocco Theater in 2010. The debut German language production played at theater in Wiener Neustadt, Austria in 2011. In 2015, a Spanish language version was presented in Mexico by Brit studio Artes Escanicas at Teatro Carlos Lazo. And in 2022, just last year, Australian productions took place in Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth. So Australia has been enjoying the Wedding Singer on stage the entire last year. That's amazing. I mean that shows you that the Wedding Singer is, if not one of the great romantic comedies, it's definitely one of the most popular of the past 25 years. I remember another romantic comedy that came out the same year as The Wedding Singer in 1998 was actually the Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan film You've Got Mail, written and directed by Nora Ephron, who also did Sleepless in Seattle. I actually really liked You've Got Mail. I really liked it. Even though it was a remake of an old James Stewart movie, I mean, The Shop Around the Corner. And looking back on it, I think that Wedding Singer has the edge. I mean, I'd be more than comfortable in citing this as the best romantic comedy of 1998. I think it's actually an ideal choice in retrospect now. I'm afraid he's indisposed. uh, Comic misunderstandings ensue. Yeah. So it looks like Drew Barrymore will be tying the knot sooner than she would have preferred. And so she's just going to jump on a plane to Vegas with her fiance to get it over with. And it's going to take a while for Adam Sandler to realize what's going on. And now's the time to make a move. Are you wearing my Van Halen shirt? Oh no. You don't get the right anymore to wear my Van Halen shirt. What are you doing here? Here again, I even think Adam Sandler's performance in 51st Dates is even better. I mean, he really does get emotional in that movie that he doesn't hear necessarily. I like the song at the end. I mean, the song at the end is actually a huge deal, I think. And it works. It definitely works. I like the ending to The Wedding Singer. But here again, just everything about 51st Dates I just far preferred as a story, as the characters are concerned, and how Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore, even though they capitalize upon the chemistry that was generated here, they take it in another direction. They progress it, you know, and they're just irresistible to watch in that movie. I even love Rob Schneider in 51st Dates. Yeah. I like everything, including the product placement and Rob Schneider. That tells you, I think it's, a masterpiece. I mean, what other question is there? Now, we haven't talked about Matthew Glave yet, who plays her fiance. He has appeared in shows like Cheers and NYPD Blue, Millennium, The X Files, Will and Grace. 50th anniversary. Oh, yeah. Well, this is the 25th anniversary of The Wedding Singer, but of course, 50th anniversary for Rosie and her husband. And there's Alexis on the piano. Mm. But just real quick, going back to Matthew Glave, he played the philandering 1980s guy fiance Glenn Julia to Drew Barrymore's character in Wedding Singer. He also played the brother to Mark Wahlberg in the movie Rockstar. In 2000, he played Bennington Cotwell in the 1994 film Baby's Day Out. He also played antagonistic Brick Davis in the 2001 comedy film Corky Romano. In 2011, he played the antagonist Dr. Olson in Disney Channel's Sweet Life movie. He also played Wayne in My Name is Earl. And, he was actually in the movie Ghost in the Machine in 1993. That was his first film. Then he did a movie called Chasers, which is actually a Last Detail ripoff. I'll talk about that when I do the Last Detail commentary at the end of the year. And he also what else? He was in Get Smart. He was in Argo. He played Colonel Charles W. Scott in Ben Affleck's Argo, which of course won Best Picture. And the last movie he did was in 2020 called Safety, which is a Disney movie directed by Reginald Hudlin. And it's about a football player who has battled family adversity to join the Clemson Tigers. Yeah, that was a Walt Disney production. I didn't see it. He plays the coach in that movie. Oh, very interesting. Let's see. So yeah, here we are about to jump on the plane to Vegas here, which of course Billy Idol, of course, of all people, is going to be on the plane. I honestly had no idea who Billy Idol was before I saw The Wedding Singer. I must confess that he was never in my CD player. I probably heard him on the radio somewhere along the way and had no idea who the guy was. But Billy Idol has a very prominent presence in the climax of The Wedding Singer. So he needs to be talked about here. He's a British singer and songwriter and musician. First achieved fame in the 1970s, emerging from the London punk rock scene as the lead singer of the group Generation X. Subsequently, he embarked on a solo career, which led to international recognition and made Idol a lead artist during the MTV driven second British invasion in the United States. The name Billy Idol was inspired by a school teacher's description of him as Idol. Idol began his music career in the late 1976 as a guitarist in the punk rock band Chelsea. However, he soon left the group with his former bandmate Tony James. Idol performed Generation X. With Idol as lead singer, the band achieved success in the United Kingdom and released 3 studio albums on Chrysalis Records, then disbanded. In 1981, Idol moved to New York City to pursue his solo career in collaboration with guitarist Steve Stevens. His debut studio album, Billy Idol, in 1982, was a commercial success. With music videos for singles Dancing with Myself and White Wedding, Idol soon became a staple of then newly established MTV. Idol's second studio album, Rebel Yell, in 1983, was a major commercial success, featuring hit singles Rebel Yell and Eyes Without a Face. The album was certified double platinum by the Recording Industry Association of America for shipment of 2 million copies in the U.S. In 1986, he released Whiplash Smile, having accumulated 3 UK top 10 singles, Rebel Yell, White Wedding, and Money Money. Idol released a 1988 greatest hits album titled Idol Songs, 11 of the Best. The album went platinum in the United Kingdom. Idol then released Charmed Life and the concept album Cyberpunk in 1993. Idol spent the second half of the 1990s focusing on his personal life out of the public eye. He made a musical comeback with the release of Devil's Playground in 2005 and again with Kings and Queens of the Underground in 2014. So yeah, he was huge in the 1980s. Absolutely huge. And honestly, before The Wedding Singer, the only other thing that I knew that I'd heard his name from. Let's put it this way. This is going to be embarrassing because it's like, oh, wait a minute, you never heard Billy Idol's music before this movie? No. I mean, I hate to say it, but no. The only time I ever heard of Billy Idol was that originally he was supposed to be on the soundtrack for Gremlins 2, The New Batch. They put a song in there to use as Gizmo is dancing. And they weren't able, they didn't know if they were going to be able to get the rights to it. So but in the end, they ultimately used a Fats Domino song. Quite the leap from like 1980s to 1950s, but yeah, there you go. Yeah, I love it when the drink tray comes by and hits Drew in the elbow. It's like that reaction is genuine. That reaction looked genuine enough that you feel for her. You really do. And of course, he would be on the cover of Rolling Stone in 1985. So good enough. Good enough. Um, I don't think I got a chance to talk about the writer of the movie. I talked about the director, Frank Coraci. However, the writer, Tim Herlihy, I mean, of course, he also did the musical version, which, of course, has been playing in Australia for the past year. He wrote or co-wrote the Sandler films Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, The Wedding Singer, The Waterboy, Big Daddy, and Pixels. Pixels not one of the best ones among that group. Let's put it that way. Yeah, and Hurley has written for and performed on 3 of Sandler's comedy albums. Um, those are the early comedy albums that I was talking about. And see, he returned to Saturday Night Live for one episode in 2015 to work with Tracy Morgan on a recurring sketch they had created in the 1990s, Brian Fellows' Safari Planet. And the episode was nominated for an Emmy Award for Outstanding Writing and won a Writers Guild Award for Outstanding Writing for a Comedy or Variety Sketch Series. Oh yeah, and he's also responsible for Mr. Deeds. Oh boy. Oh yeah. Don't talk to Billy Idol that way. Yeah, just put him in the bathroom. That's good enough. But this is actually a really nice song, courtesy of Sandler and Tim Herlihy. This is actually a really, really cool capper to a romantic comedy, and it works. It does very much work. Well, believe me when I say that I will definitely be doing 51st dates somewhere down the road. And I'm so looking forward to doing 51st dates because, here again, if I was going to give The Wedding Singer like a score out of 5, I'd say 4 out of 5. And 51st dates would have 5 out of 5. So I like Wedding Singer a lot. It's just not my personal favorite. I'm going to tell those record company guys about you. So yeah, he's finally going to get his record contract that he's always been dreaming of, and he doesn't have to do weddings anymore. Oh, unless Drew insists that he be a professional wedding singer, which hey, do it in Vegas. Why not? There might be good money in that, actually. Yeah, just have Steve Buscemi do the wedding singing gig at the end. Well, I guess they decided not to hire John Lovitz. I wonder why. But but yeah, that is the wedding singer, ladies and gentlemen. And now we're hearing "Video Killed the Radio Star," uh, which originally was a song by yeah, it was a 1978 hit song, as a matter of fact, written by Trevor Horn, Jeff Downes, and Bruce Woolley. It was recorded concurrently by Bruce Woolley and the Camera Club for their album English Garden, and by British new wave synth pop group The Buggles, which consisted of Horn and Downes, initially Woolley. The Buggles version of the track was recorded and mixed in 1979, released as their debut single on September 7th, 1979 by Island Records. The song relates to concerns about and mixed attitudes towards 20th century inventions and machines for the media arts. Musically, the song performs like an extended jingle, and the composition plays in the key of D flat major in common time at a tempo of 132 beats per minute. The track has been positively received, with reviewers praising its unusual musical pop elements. Although the song includes several common pop characteristics and six basic chords are used in its structure, Downes and writer Timothy Warner described the piece as musically complicated due to its use of suspended and minor ninth chords for enhancement that gave the song a quote slightly different feel. There you go. So I wasn't able to talk about every single song on the soundtrack, but I still managed to talk about a good number of them. So I'm glad of that. So yeah, that is The Wedding Singer. Yeah, definitely. I would be comfortable calling it the best romantic comedy of 1998, one of the best of the 90s for sure. And it remains popular, beloved, and will continue to do. Will continue to be as long as the musical is still playing. Let's put it that way. I mean, the fact that the musical has gone on for as long as it has. I mean, what 15 years at that point? I mean, that's incredible. Actually, more than that, 18 years, I think, at this point. It's just a shame. And here again, it's just a shame that, even though they made Blended together, which I didn't bother with prior to watching this, I really wish Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler had made a fourth film with well, maybe just try again. Try again, do another film, see if it makes up for Blended in any way, and then just leave it at that. But you know, I think Wedding Singer and 51st Dates are enough of in many ways, a quintessential double feature. Which, yeah, and I can see guys and girls enjoying both of these movies equally. I don't think there's anything that would, even if they're romantic comedies, I don't think that they're, necessarily. I think couples will love both of them. Yeah, I really do think so. I think they work as romantic comedies, and they definitely work in satisfying both genders. Although I prefer 51st Dates in that soundtrack. Oh, I actually even prefer the soundtrack in 51st Dates over Wedding Singer, and that's saying a lot. That's saying a lot. Well, so that is my commentary for The Wedding Singer. I hope you all enjoyed it. Just to let everybody know, I wanted to drop some massive news tonight, which I will be spreading around in the next few days. But mark your calendars for February 19th, which is a Sunday night, February 19th at 10:30 p.m. I will be doing an audio commentary for Dangerous Beauty with the director as my special guest star. So look out on Twitter, look out in the coming days, and you will hear more details about that as it comes out. But yeah, Sunday, February 19th of 2023, we are going to be doing a 50th anniversary commentary of Dangerous Beauty, a movie starring Catherine McCormick and Rufus Sewell. and it's produced and directed by Marshall Herskovitz, who will be joining me for this very special 25th anniversary commentary. Hope to see you all there. Thank you so much for joining me for The Wedding Singer, and you all have a wonderful evening.